there is so much possibility with the wisdom that comes with age, especially for us women. It is about really claiming that power that comes at midlife, the wisdom, the power, the strength, the energy, and the knowing. So if we can focus on that, which is what we help people do, rather than on what they're losing, it's really, really important to do that.
Welcome to Zestful Aging Podcast, where I speak with change makers from all over the world, from every walk of life, who will inspire you to live with zest. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, and my mission is to bring you optimism about aging and help you make full use of the new opportunities that only come at this stage of life. And to find out more about this podcast, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. Well, we have a special treat for you today, Zestful Agers. Claire and James Davis are the midlife mentors, and they are the British dynamic duo of midlife health and well-being. Today, we're going to talk with them about menopause and hormones, because frankly, it's something I don't know that much about. I had the fortune or misfortune, however you see it, of having chemo at that time. So I didn't have the typical menopause experience. So I don't know that much about it, but I am certainly hearing that it's confusing for many, many people. And I'm really happy to have them here today. They're experts in this topic. Welcome to the show, Claire and James.
Hello, great to be here. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you for having us on.
Of course. I am really ready to learn some important stuff, because I know hormones are so important. We all know things are changing in our bodies. I'm like, oh, that's sort of weird little mustache there I never had before. And you sort of see things that you know, like my skin looks different. Yeah. And I know that hormones change everything. You guys are experts. You're super trained up. I know you're science-backed. You're not just right off of Facebook saying, hey, let's talk about hormones. So I am ready to listen. And I guess what I'd like to start with is that there are just so many physical and emotional changes. Can you two talk about what people might expect as, let's just start with starting the menopause, not even being in it without having, I know, a period for a year, but what does it look like?
Well, it starts with the perimenopause. So this is kind of, I guess, preparing you for the menopause to come. And essentially, what's going on there is levels of your progesterone and your estrogen are fluctuating wildly whilst also declining. So this is why some of the symptoms, we get things like, the hot flashes, really irregular periods, night sweats, feeling really great and normal one day, feeling like a stranger in your own body the next. It's down to these hormone levels like fluctuating. I'd say, liken it, a good analogy would be being in a room with someone switching on and off the light, but you're not in control of it. So that's what a lot of women report, like the perimenopause, menopause symptoms feeling like. And of course, there are physical symptoms. So we know that as we're going through menopause, obviously, it's reaching the end of the reproductive cycle. But there's other things as well. We might feel that we're lower on energy, that our muscle mass is starting to disappear. We might find we're holding on to more weight, laying down more body fat, especially around the midsection, the thighs. Often there can be feelings of like anxiety, low mood. We can have brain fog. I mean, there's a long list of symptoms. And what's quite challenging is a lot of the symptoms could also be put down to things like stress or age as well, rather specifically menopause. There's a lot of overlap.
Like some of the psychological adjustments. And, nature is a bit cruel, right? Because if we have daughters, they're coming into their beautiful prime just as women are starting to have these exact problems.
That is such a important point to note, because for men and for women where their hormones are changing, there is a real sense of loss. You know, a lot of people can feel like the best, it sounds really dramatic, like the best years of their life are behind them because it doesn't matter what we think, we are wrapped up obviously in how we look when we feel, how we feel when we look in the mirror. And, you know, it's not about a dress size. It's about how confident and how strong and how healthy and fit we feel in our body. It's not a dress size. But if we don't feel strong, fit and healthy, and our body shape is changing, and at the same time, our daughters are growing into these magnificent beings, these beautiful women, it can feel very, very jarring. It can really emphasize the fact that we, I suppose, feel like we are losing our petals. You know, like the flower.
What a great analogy.
Yeah, and they're blooming, and it can feel like we are withering slightly. But I think something that's really important, we were talking about this to a woman this morning that we had a meeting with, there is so much possibility with the wisdom that comes with age, you know, especially for us women. It is about really claiming that power that comes at midlife, the wisdom, the power, the strength, the energy, and the knowing. So if we can focus on that, which is what we help people do, rather than on what they're losing, it's really, really important to do that.
I think that's brilliant, of course. What I would say, though, is it's hard to focus on those things if you are also anxious, perhaps depressed, perhaps grieving. So how would you recommend women deal with this? And we mentioned off mic that the UK and Europe are a bit ahead in really talking about the effects, possible effects, negative effects of menopause, and bringing them into conversations about work and all this. In the US, we're still in the sort of whispering, you know, like hot flashes kind of thing. Talk a little bit about if we find ourselves in this situation, which many of our listeners do, what are the steps that we can take? Let's start physically, and then we'll go to the mindset. And I know that the two of you are mindset experts. So physically, what can be done?
So physically, I think we need to understand what's going on with our bodies. So as well as the estrogen and progesterone declining, also testosterone is dropping away for women as well. And that plays a key role in new cells and tissue generation, but especially in muscle mass. So there's a stat here in the UK that 1 in 2 women over 50 will suffer a broken bone because something that happens is osteoporosis. The muscles weaken, the bones weaken. So that's why physically it is really, really important that all women, as early as possible, start doing resistance training, you know, at least twice a week. And with resistance training, we mean, you know, using your body weight to actually put tension on the muscles, or, you know, going to the gym and using machines and weights. It's so important, and it has a structural effect and a aesthetic effect, if you like. Structural effect is obviously we want to maintain our strength, not be that frail old person that struggles to get up out of the chair or can't reach for things from the cupboard. So there's the structural part, and there's the aesthetic part. You know, muscle is metabolically active. You know, when we're carrying more muscle, our metabolism is running at a higher rate, and one of the reasons we get weight gain in midlife is, you know, our muscle mass is declining, but often you know, our energy input, our food is the same. So, of course, we're storing that excess energy as fat. One of the biggest changes we can make is start resistance training and making those differences. And in tandem with that, doing cardiovascular exercise on a regular basis as well. And then that will actually, in turn, play into the mindset thing. Because when we exercise, we produce endorphins that make us feel good. Our regular routine, even on the days that we don't train, we'll still get that endorphin kick because the body and the mind are expecting it.
That's beautiful. I mean, doesn't exercise or movement come up all the time with aging well?
All the time. The thing we forget is, you know, in evolutionary terms, it was a blink of an eye. We were hunter-gatherers, you know. The agricultural revolution isn't that long ago. We moved to the industrial revolution. Physiologically, we're simply not designed to be, you know, sat on a couch, sat at a desk all day doing nothing. Our bodies are designed to be up and moving. That's why movement is such an important part for us, especially with aging. And I think the more we learn, the more we know it really is a case of use it or lose it. You know, we can look at people that have got immobile just by sitting around doing nothing for so long. The muscles are wasted away, the joints have seized up. And you see other people that still training hard in their 80s and are in fantastic shape.
And I also think it's really important to say to any midlife ladies that are listening to this right now, it's not like you have to go and slog yourself away at the gym. You don't have to go to a gym to actually start building some muscle and strengthening your bones. You can do some stuff at home with your body weight, like James said, or light weights. But the rewards are going to be huge, not just, like James said, not just structurally, not just mentally, but also you are going to feel better about yourself. You're just that sense of being strong really, really starts to make you feel rather powerful and rather than disempowered at midlife.
I think so. And, there's so many psychological benefits that you're touching on, but I just, I'm training for the Camino. So I know that you go to Spain, have a place in Spain. And so we're going to go on the Del Norte. And that is not a joke. I mean, I hope I can make it. So the training really has sort of revved up my hiking, and I already feel different, even though I'm already a tennis player and walker and all that stuff. I also find, and I'd like to hear your advice, like doing different things, right? Not just the same thing. If you're a swimmer, swimming, and it's good to do a variety of things for your body. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. The body gets used to the same thing over and over again. And actually we're using different muscles, different, we're just doing different things, using different body parts when we're doing different things. So it's really, really good to mix it up. And actually the body gets used to things very, very quickly. So we always say with our resistance training programs, you want to mix that up every 6 weeks, really, just to get even in your weights program to get something different. But yeah, we always really encourage people to do different things, work the body in a different way, but always stuff that you enjoy.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
If you're not enjoying it, you're not going to do it. So, and also start something that fits into your lifestyle. What I would say is, don't sit there thinking, I've got to go for a 45-minute run now. I've got to go for a cycle. This is going to take so much time out of my busy schedule. One of the things that we work with our clients around is actually HIIT, which is high intensity interval training. And people think, oh no, that's just the words intensity just puts me off. But it's actually, we have people using that protocol that have never exercised before in their life, because it's actually set to their own limits. It's set to their own benchmark. So, that works into people's schedules in about 15 minutes, 20
Yes.
So everyone can do something like that, even if you're busy.
It's interesting. I was reading that tennis players are some of the longest lived folks, and it's interval. It is that because you're waiting for the ball and then it's intense. Then you're waiting for the ball and then it's intense, and you're going off in all these crazy directions that your body's surprised. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why are you making me do these funny contortions? And so and that was one of the reasons, is it because of stop, start, a little hard on the knees. But so that's great to hear. We're hearing more and more about high intensity interval here in the US. I don't know how far it's gotten, but that is definitely something on the landscape.
Hi, Zesties. Hey, if you're enjoying this episode, I would so appreciate if you would share with just one person, like a family member or a friend who would enjoy and benefit from Zestful Aging Podcast. Thank you so much.
So, I'm curious, do men also go through their own type of menopause? You mentioned testosterone.
That's a great question. And the answer is yes, but not quite in the same way. So whereas for women, the actual time window when perimenopause and menopause is occurring is quite short. For men, what's happening is there's a steady decline in testosterone. So testosterone will peak for men in their early 20s typically, and it declines at a rate of 1% to 2% per year, which doesn't sound a lot. But when you compound that, by by the time a man's in his 50s, he could be 30 to 50% lower in testosterone levels than he was in his 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's going to start having an impact in some of the symptoms that are similar, like, losing muscle mass, putting on weight, but also be that kind of like declining levels of confidence, loss of energy, loss of libido, all those things. That I guess, if we go back to a less enlightened time, like long ago, we just said, typical midlife crisis, and the guy, buys his open top sports car and all the rest of it. But we now know that there is a hormonally driven reason for it. Not to mention, I think, for men and women, that the various psychological pressures that come to bear at midlife. It's a natural point, I think, where we take stock and we evaluate, and we maybe had an idea about where we would be, and we might not be there, or we might actually be there, but suddenly it's not what we thought it was. And we've got aging parents, we've got kids that are growing up, leaving the home, financial pressures, all this melting pot is going on, plus these hormonal changes. And that's why I'd say it's really important for couples to speak to each other about what they think is going or could be going on for them, and understand what's going on with the hormones, and kind of communicate. Because what we can see otherwise, if you've got a couple and the woman's going through menopause and the man's going through andropause, they can kind of drift apart through both of them being a bit unsure about what's happening for themselves, and they're not able to communicate about it to each other.
That's such a great point, and it's one that I have not heard before, even though I've listened to a lot of, podcasts and read books on the menopause experience, that if you're both going through it as a couple, that would really intensify some of perhaps the feelings, the loss, as you say, the drifting apart, and maybe even the isolation.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things we talk about a lot is, I really, really support the work that James does. He goes into organisations, and not only does he talk to men about the menopause, which I think is just amazing, but he goes and talks to them about the andropause, because actually the alarming stats are, here in the UK, I don't know about the US, but midlife men, it's the highest suicide rate. And there's a lot going on in the workplace at the moment since COVID as well. There's lots of stats actually around men actually leaving the workforce, and they're not really quite sure, like midlife men leaving the workforce, and they're not really understanding why they're leaving the workforce and why they're not coming back and where they've gone, because they're not claiming off the state at the moment. So there's this whole melting pot we can see, and we've been talking to some people that are actually involved in government policy. There's this whole melting pot of midlife men that aren't actually being supported, and that's showing up in the statistics of suicides. But I think raising awareness of that does help women support the men as they're going through their own changes. But I always say, us women, we are blessed, because we, especially here in the UK, we're talking about it all the time. It's absolutely everywhere. Menopause. Like to the degree that actually is a bit much. But we have our network of female friends that we can talk to about this stuff. The guys don't. And actually, again, like, their network becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. Yes. And they have most of their friendships at work. And then obviously, as they're getting to the age where they're looking to retire, their network has got smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's why they really, really struggle as they're reaching that time when they retire.
Yes. I was just researching on making friends in later life, and how it's pretty tricky. It's not like when we were kids and we were in summer camp and we just, both like to do crafts, and right? We've had a whole life of maybe some rejection, maybe some painful relationships, and many, many people bring to their social life, I hope I'm okay, and hope people will like me. So there's so many layers. I'm wondering, I'm a psychotherapist, and I specialize in eating disorders. And I wonder, the eating disorder rate in the US for older women has really grown. We've seen that more and more. We've never seen this before. I wonder for men also, if you're finding that they get overly obsessed with being so-called healthy, going to the gym, running, all this stuff, the running clubs, the marathons. Is that something you're also seeing as sort of a compensation for some of these losses?
Yeah, I think over here we've got an interesting thing. So I think the young generation, there's definitely a high degree of body dysmorphia now with men.
Mm,
I think driven by media. We have a lot of reality shows where all the guys are like really buff,
mm,
portrayed in the magazines. So the younger guys think I've got to be like that, which is I think sadly we're reaching record levels of things like steroid usage now and
mm.
eating disorders linked to wanting to look good in the gym. I think for older men it's quite interesting. They'll often go off into quite data-driven pastimes. So cycling is a big thing here, but kind of taking it to that extra degree where they've got all the gear. The bike, carbon fiber bike that's thousands of pounds. They're tracking.
And the outfits, it's like
Yeah.
I don't think you need that outfit.
Mammals, we call them, middle-aged men in lycra. But I think that's a big part of it. That's definitely the demographic for the high end cycling here is midlife men.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and they do become obsessed with the data.
Yeah.
That's what we see.
Yes.
And then sharing it. It's almost like ego thing. So, I've got all the gear.
And that we had talked about the Fitbits and the wearable devices. Oh my goodness, that's hysterical.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's ticking their ego box, basically, that they're getting better at their stats and they're sharing it with everyone. They're sharing it online just to pump up the ego a bit.
Because if you're not doing your work and it feels like the best is behind you, you need something to hang on to. Yeah. And that's an easy thing, right? I'm also wondering about, and I don't know if this is outside of your work, probably not. You guys have a lot of training, but for women and men, are you seeing higher levels of alcohol and substance use?
Especially since the COVID and the lockdown. So we know that alcohol consumption massively increased during lockdown, which I guess is understandable. It was a stressful time. People also just bored at home. I think what's interesting, there seems to be a split. The people that came out the other side and now have just gone being I'm a completely moderate drinker now, and there's other people who are now just locked into that quite serious drinking habit.
And actually that goes back to the whole menopause thing, actually, because it is one of the worst things you could possibly do for your menopausal symptoms. Your body, your physiological and your psychological symptoms you experience during menopause. Alcohol is only going to make everything so much worse, not just because it's alcohol, but also because of the sugar content, which is highly inflammatory to the body, the gut, the brain. So like James said, I think we've seen a mix of people really not being able, like becoming quite addicted to it and not being able to kick it, to the other extreme of actually, I could have gone down that route in lockdown because there was nothing else to do because I was bored, and actually I caught myself and now I'm completely off it.
I think I saw something you said about being completely off.
Yes.
And has that been a noticeable change for you, Claire? Is completely is that right?
Yeah, I mean it's been a real journey. It actually started with my perimenopausal symptoms. Must be nearly 3 years ago, actually, 2.5, 3 years ago, and I had all of these kind of symptoms, but even doing what I do, I didn't really recognise they were perimenopausal symptoms, which sounds crazy, but it also, I hope, gives people an understanding of how, even if you know this stuff, that actually it can really floor you. And there are so many different symptoms. Like I had itchy ears, I had itchy eyes. These are all symptoms. Itchy eyes, really dry mouth. I felt like someone had pulled the plug on my energy like every single day. I actually ended up having ECGs on my lung capacity, because we've actually got estrogen receptors on pretty much a majority of our organs in our body. So it really, really affects, if our estrogen is fluctuating, which it is, it can really affect things like your heart, your lung capacity and everything. So I was like, okay, I'm going to cut out alcohol. And so I did a big stint of cutting out alcohol, like a really long time. Then I went back to it. But I've never been a big drinker, here's the thing, but I just wanted to cut it out completely because of the symptoms. So then I went back to it for a little bit. Then I had another big stint where I didn't drink. Then I went back to it again, and now I'm on a complete, it's out of my life. And
it's off, huh? Even the gin and tonic in the summer
Yeah, I mean, I literally, the crazy thing is, I'm the cheapest date now. So I can't even handle like a few sips of wine. I mean, it goes straight to my head. And if even sniffing gin, I'm sure I'd be on the floor.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's really good to know. So what I'm hearing overall from both of you in different ways is that this is a super vulnerable time. Lots of changing, like plate tectonics, whatever, as shifting under our feet. And we could do a lot of things to feel like we're helping ourselves that is actually making it worse. So I guess my question is, how do we approach this in a holistic, balanced way rather than either going off the deep end with alcohol or, other stuff, or getting so, only eating, organic kale and olive oil, shots, and then living at the gym? That to me seems like it's the challenge.
And you're right, it is. It's all about finding the balance that works for you, that's going to basically maximize your happiness, but also your health as well, right? So, yeah, no one wants to be living off dried kale and spending hours in the gym. But at the same time, we know if we sit on the sofa and eat pizza all day long and ice cream, then that's not going to be a good result either. I think it is really about taking a holistic approach. And I think one of the frustrations we've experienced is seeing, I think in Western society, we're very focused on the quick fix external. So it'll be like, oh, I'm putting weight on, let me do this diet for 2 weeks, or let me try this new workout routine, which is what we call the external stuff. And yes, we need to move our bodies. Yes, we need to be more mindful about how and what we're eating. But it's about doing the internal work, because our hormones and our neurotransmitters, our psychology is changing as well. That's why we're getting the low mood, the anxiety. We might starting to feel less positive in life, but we can change that around by starting to employ mindset techniques to feel more gratitude in our lives. And where it becomes holistic is how these things fit together, right? So we said exercise will give you the neurotransmitters, which will boost your mood. We know that our gut health plays a massive role in mood. So that's about getting your nutrition right, avoiding things like sugar, which is inflammatory to the gut, making sure you're getting lots of fiber, live foods, probiotics to nourish your guts, because that's going to actually help your metabolism and it's going to help raise your mood. But then it's actually spending time actively working on your mindset, like thinking about, we're saying about people feel lost at midlife. Like, where am I going? What are my values? What do I want to live by? It's a time to reinvent if you want to, and to find who you want to be. All too often, we take on an identity that's kind of defined for us, usually by our family and by society, and then maybe the career we go into. But it's okay to actually step back and go, well, that's got me this far, but is that what I want going forward? Or do I want to define myself in a different way? Do I want to step into a new self-identity? And then look at how you start crafting that. What's the work you're going to do around your limiting beliefs to change those? And so you can really step into this place of power and go forward. But it's about taking all the parts, right? It's about nourishing your mind and your body, moving it, working it out, putting all these bits together. So it's not about ever making these wholesale changes in one area or the other. It's just lots of small tweaks that will make a massive difference when you put them together.
I think that's so important, because I think I was talking to another coach and we were talking about like this transformation, such opportunity and all this stuff. And she said, a lot of this doesn't look like this massive, like, who are you? It might look like, I want to start growing herbs in my garden.
Yeah.
And wouldn't that be lovely? And those are the kind of small tweaks. Is that the kind of thing? Yes?
Yeah. And it's like I always say, just follow the joy. So, follow your bliss, follow the joy. So many of us have lost the ability to be present in our life because we're either concerning ourselves with the past and trying to change it, which is obviously fruitless, or worrying about the future, which makes us anxious and is also fruitless. And we've lost our ability to be present. So I think just thinking, okay, what brings me joy? The simplest of things, what brings me joy, it actually opens up the heart space. It opens up the mind. It opens up for possibility. Because when we're in that joy space, we're more grateful. And we know that an attitude of gratitude is where the struggle ends. being grateful for what we do have rather than what we don't have is literally life changing. And we can only really experience that when we're doing those little things that bring us joy.
That's beautiful. And it's so doable. It doesn't feel so unattainable. It's like, wait a minute, I can pick. I discovered, I guess it's lemon mint. There are other names for it. It grows like a weed, and it is so delicious. It's tastes like lemon mint. And who knew? I did a little research. It's so super good for everything. It's been used for millennia. I didn't know any of this, and now that's how I start my day. And it's like, well, isn't this lovely?
Yeah, and it's just little joyful things, It could be so we've got London Zoo really close to us, and in May I just realised I'd been so serious about work, striving, pushing, and it wasn't serving me at all. And I just had a real moment it was a real transformation of like, Claire, you are not living in your joy enough. So what's going to bring you joy? So I was like, right, march down to the zoo. I got my little membership so I can go in there anytime. And if I'm feeling a bit low, I can just go and look at the lions or the monkeys. And, it's that simple, the simple pleasures that we just overlook, that they're the little small changes that then start reaping huge rewards in so many other areas of your life.
It's a ripple effect. It's like joy begets joy.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I live in upstate New York, and the fall is really glorious. You just can't even believe the colors, and it smells great. It smells like earth. And I was on my hike yesterday with my dog, who's super sweet. I'm like, what more can you ask for? I had Elvis Costello playing in my ears. Normally I go quiet, but I just wanted a little something to jazz me up. And it just felt so, all I could say is like all my cells were happy. It was like, that was really, really positive for so many reasons. And that's so simple.
Yeah. And getting out in nature, that's where you're New York, we're central London. So we live in cities, and I think it's so important. We're really blessed where we are because we live near real green spaces. Like, some people think of London, if they don't know London, they think of it as really, really built up everywhere. But it's where we are in North London. We're on top of Hampstead Heath, which are actually called the lungs of London. They call them the lungs of London. So there's so many trees. It's really beautiful, and it's important to me and to James, but I just have to go and hug some trees, every day. I'm just like, let me sit next to you.
And I'm sure, because you guys are such researchers, that is scientific, that's like the gold magical stuff for your brain. I'm all about that. My brother used to live in the north part of London, so I visited him a couple times, and it is so beautiful there.
We love
beautiful.
It.
I bet.
Yeah,
I bet. So you have a lot of programs. You have a lot of great stuff. You've won a bunch of awards. My goodness, you've been in all of the super highbrow media outlets, too many to mention. I'd love people to find out more about you. Can you tell our audience where they can find your good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably the easiest way is to go to our website. So that is themidlifementors.com. That's all one word, themidlifementors.com.
Yeah.
I've also got a podcast called the Midlife Mentors. You can find that on all podcast platforms. And on social media, if you type in the Midlife Mentors or Midlife Mentors, you'll find us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
All the things, huh?
Yeah.
Boy, you guys are, I hope you kind of split up those duties, because I have just turned my back. I'm just like, I'm doing LinkedIn. That's all I can deal with. Yeah. So good for you. Good for you.
Social media is a beast that needs constant feeding.
It is a beast. I mean, like TikTok.
Insatiable.
No, I said no to TikTok. I said absolutely not doing it. And then a business coach said, no, Claire, go on. There's lots of
and apparently there's folks there, over 50 who are just
So I said, no. And then I just put some stuff out and it went from 2,000 followers to 90,000 followers overnight. And then I was like, oh, you are kidding me. Now I've got to feed this beast. Now there's another beast in my life that I have now got to feed. So it could be.
It's funny that you call it that. I just call it soul crushing.
Yes,
it's the machine. Will the machine like me? And I've just decided, because it was burning me out, and all I want to do is talk to people like you guys. I don't want to do all that stuff. So I just decided to do LinkedIn and take more walks.
I love that. And you'll get more done. You'll be more, you'll just get loads more done and balanced. And I think, I just don't know how these people that are on social media all the time they put all these videos together and they look so professional. I'm like, I don't know. I turn up, sweat dripping off my face after a workout. There is no staging to it at all.
I know. I do that too. I'm like, here I am walking again. No makeup, hair's flying around. That's great. Thank you so much, both you, Claire, and James. I really appreciate your perspectives. I love what you do. I found it really energizing just to look at all the things that you do and you bring to people in this phase of life. So I really appreciate you spending time with me today.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Thank you. It's been absolutely wonderful to be on here.
Thank you for having us on.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. Our theme song is All I Did Was Wait for You by Kjartan Abel. Visit Kjartan-Abel, that's KJARTAN-Abel, ABEL.com to hear more of Kjartan's work. And our technical director is Stephen Litweiler. Hello, Zesties. Well, many of you know that I've been a psychotherapist for more than 30 years, and I'm an expert in healthy aging. But what you might not know is that I'm also a midlife coach, and I help women like you clarify and design the life you want to live in your second half. A life that's vibrant and feels uniquely like you. Maybe you've spent your entire life caring for others in one way or another, and you're a bit stuck with how to move forward in this new phase of your life. Or maybe you're considering a career change or other big life transition. Or maybe you're in the middle of a life change you didn't see coming. You may be asking yourself questions like, who am I now? And how do I build a new kind of life for myself? Or how do I make the most of the time I have left? This stage in our lives is the perfect time to pause, recalibrate, and reassess where our life is heading and ask ourselves what deserves our precious time. Now is the time to focus on what brings you joy and a sense of deep, calm contentment. I love helping women discover who they are in addition to being caregivers. After our sessions, you will have a clear plan for making your life more vibrant and deeply satisfying. You will feel a sense of control because you will be making choices that are perfect for you. And you will feel more confident because you will have an individualized blueprint to follow. And because you're a Zestful Aging podcast listener, I'm offering a special package deal. Contact me at zestfulaging.com right through my contact link. Time is truly precious, and there's no time to waste. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest. See you then.